So hello and good afternoon to one and all. I welcome you all to the uh, panel discussion that we are having today. My name is Alok Bhaumik and I am the president of Indian Association of Structural Engineers who is hosting today's webinar. Uh, for those participants who may not be aware about our association, I think I will simply briefly mention that the Indian Association of Structural Engineers is the national apex body of structural engineers in India, established, I think, in 2002 with the objective to cater to the overall professional needs of the structural engineers. I will stop at that. If you want to know more, kindly visit our website, which is uh, IAStructE.co.in, www.IAStructE.co.in. And further details you can just read through. As we all know, COVID-19 is the biggest human tragedy of the century that any one of us living have ever witnessed. This pandemic has already infected, I think, more than about 10 million people worldwide and has claimed about 5 lakh lives across the globe. Situation in India is not so good, and our concerns are only increasing day by day. We are yet to reach the peak. The economic impact of this COVID-19 is huge, and I think none of the industry will be spared from the adverse impact. We structural engineers are no exception.
Newspaper
This webinar
RERA
will focus on the role of structural engineers in post-COVID scenario.
covering
We will also discuss the opportunities we have in the unknown future that we have. We have to embrace a new culture of working from home now onwards. How do we gear ourselves to this new culture? How do we develop leadership in our fraternity? How do we bring in resilience in our consulting sector? What roadmap we have chartered for our young engineers? We all will discuss these issues today. I'm very pleased to say that we have a pretty elite panel of experts today with us. This panel discussion will be chaired by Professor Mahesh Tandon, who is a well-known personality in the profession, past president of IAStructE. This will be moderated by Mr. Amitabh Ghoshal, another stalwart, another pillar in our fraternity and president of CEAI. We are also fortunate to have experts like engineer I.K. Pandeji, Director General Roads and Special Secretary, Ministry of Transport. We have Mr. A.K. Sharma, ex-DG CPWD, Mr. Vipul Ahuja, Vice President North, IAStructE, Professor Reshma Shah, Associate Professor, CEPT University, representing the academic institutions. And we have Engineer A.S. Brara, CMD of Mantic Consultants. So we have an elite panel. Before I hand over the mic to Professor Tandon for giving his opening remarks, I have some few housekeeping items to cover. Firstly, let me tell you all, we have an awful lot of material to cover in a short time of 120 minutes. So we have a pretty tight program, which is shared on the screen, as you can see. I would request all the panelists to kindly stick on to the time schedule, which will be given by the moderator. And this will give us at least 30 minutes of time for question and answer session, and which otherwise will be compromised if we take more time. Second, we generally do not give any participation certificates to the attendees. Many of the times, in the chat box, we see a lot of requests for participation certificates. If someone wants to have this, maybe some students may like to have the participation certificates. He or she may write to our secretariat, and the secretariat will issue the certificate after checking whether the participant has attended the full webinar or not. Thirdly, we would like to hear, we would very much like to hear or interact with the participants during the presentation. If you have any question to our panelists, please feel free to communicate through Q&A tab. Questions should be specific and better to identify the panelist whom the question is addressed. We will be taking the Q&A after the initial remarks by all panelists, only at the end of, all the panelists have spoken. If we don't get sufficient time at the end of to take all the questions. Then we will follow up afterwards and come back to you through email. I sincerely thank you all participants for taking time out and being here today. I also thank all the panelists who agreed to share their experience with us in this platform on this very important topic. Without any further ado, I would like to now welcome Professor Mahesh Tandon, our past president and managing director of Tandon Consultants Private Limited, an eminent personality in our profession, to take over from me and kickstart the discussion. Over to you, sir, Professor Tandon.
Thank you, Alok, and good afternoon, everybody, on this last Saturday afternoon. I don't know how many people have holidays, but I think holiday or not, we are stuck at home in any case. So friends, human beings are social animals. To connect to other human beings is not only a desire, but also a necessity. The power of technology must be used in these trying circumstances for fulfilling this need. Of course, without face-to-face interaction. How to keep our projects moving is the biggest challenge that we have today as structural engineers. We need to reimagine the way we work with the objective of exploring and reclaiming our old status. This indeed has become the most important objective at the moment, and we have to be crisis resistant at least after all this thing is over. The government has done many lockdowns and many times they have slowly opened up, but I can tell you that with our own experience, this business of saying that 1/3 of the staff can attend the office is not feasible, and there are many reasons for it. There is no public transport. There wasn't much of a transport in any case. It was very, very poor transportation in the city to start with. But with the metro not starting, and in the buses, the limit of passengers is 20. And I believe that 20 people are there in the bus at the terminal itself before the bus starts. So it's really no way to do this public transportation. The other issue is that even if you are able to somehow reach the office, social distancing within the office is not possible unless, of course, you have a palatial premises, which I think structural engineers so far that I have known and met do not have that. The other issue I think that we have to do is that we have to not only change the way we work, we have to somehow convince our clients also to the new normal. Economists have predicted a negative growth in the current financial year. I think survival for the next 1 year without any permanent damage should be the minimum objective that we should have. I think with this introduction, I would like to request Mr. Amitabh Ghoshal to take over as the moderator and bring the panelists in.
Well, thank you, Mahesh. As already introduced, I am Amitabh Ghoshal, an honorary fellow of IAStructE. I held that position. And I am also president of Consulting Engineers Association of India. Uh, I have been given twin tasks. One, for moderating the proceedings with 8 high-profile panelists. Well, I exclude myself, so 7 high-profile panelists whom I have to moderate. And then I am also supposed to be a panelist, and I will, in that, I shall deal with the tricky matter of how to have a healthy balance sheet for structural consultants. Now, all of us know that the consultants in India, particularly structural engineering consultants, have been operating with a very meager fee. The reason has more to do with historical development when structural consultants came as a sub-consultant to the prime consultant, and even where structural consultants were appointed directly, it was thought that they operate with lean manpower and therefore their fees should be very low. We have been accepting this. Situation has become even worse once the software and hardware came in, when really small units could perform the task of a structural consultant, not always very well, but they did. And a structural consultant was known to be a lean size consultant. And therefore, the original situation where a structural consultant used to have innovation gradually took a backseat, and many structural consultants were found to depend more on the spreadsheets and the programs. Added to that has been the lowest cost regime. Now, with tough competition, when more and more smaller consultants joined the field, the financial bid became lower and lower. And now today, with the COVID-19 pandemic, the situation has become extremely difficult. First of all, engineers are required to work from home and also from office. Automatically, your infrastructure has got to go up, the hardware number has to go up, and as Dr. Kander mentioned, that even though government directive is to work with a limited number of people, it's not proving to be perfect, at least in our country. Now, apart from the problem of working that they are having, today, the cost of hardware and software is adding to our cost. The payments from clients, along with the lockdown, payment from clients has also been locked down. And almost all consultants facing this problem of very slow payment from the client. But the commitment to staff and the vendors remain. And added to that, the taxation issues. We are supposed to pay GST as soon as we bill, hoping for a payment, and that makes the financial situation of each consultant more and more difficult. The frailty of financial structure of engineering consultants, and more so for the structural consultants, have suddenly tearing at our face, and not
Captain Sharma.
and not all consultants are in comfortable situation. Many are facing the fear of close down. Very strangely, this is not true in the developed countries. The other day I was listening to a webinar which was attended by the CEOs of very top European consultants like Aegis, like Lambert, like Atkins, and they seem to be in a situation where they are more or less welcoming the lockdown because their costs have come down in travel. The people are working from home, and therefore their travel time is safe. So people are also are able to give more time. But all the same, they are still having a very much support from the government, financial support, and as such, they are comfortable. We wish we were like that. So, given that, it is very wise of this Indian Association of Structural Engineers to have thought about this webinar, and we have all assembled together. We have a large number of participants, and let us see what value we can bring to them at the end of this webinar. Let me do the small responsibility of introducing the speakers. I shall talk about the speakers maybe in more detail when their turn comes. Mr. Alok Bhovik, he is the president of IAStructE, but what he did not mention, he is also the managing director of BNS Engineering Consultants. He is an accredited international PE and a fellow of National Academy of Engineers. He is recipient of many medals and excellence awards. We are very fortunate to have with us Mr. I.K. Pandey, Director General of Road Development and of Road Transport and Highways. Mr. I.K. Pandey is a very, and he looks upon consultants, engineers as real support for the infrastructure industry. He is also the chairman of IABAC and very much involved in this field of workshops and seminars across the country. He is in the Council of Institute of Engineers as a council member and a board of director of Civil Engineering branch. Professor Mahesh Tandon does not require much introduction to structural engineers, but as a necessity, I will just mention that he has the accreditation of international PE, and Mr. Mahesh Tandon spends more of his time in disseminating knowledge to engineers rather than following his livelihood and following his work as the managing director of Tandon Consultants. I'm sure Tandon Consultants will take objection to it, but that's the reality. We have Mr. Anil Kumar Sharma, former special DG of CPWD. Mr. Sharma has retired from the DG position of CPWD, but he is still a consultant and a sole arbitrator. He has vast experience of planning, design, and execution of projects and have been involved with umpteen number of important structures. We have Mr. Vipul Ahuja, licensed structural engineer from California, director and CEO of Ahuja Consultants. Mr. Vipul Ahuja is the coordinator of this webinar and therefore the main key person for making this successful, and he has been very successful in getting a lot of participants. He is the chairman of the event organizing committee of this.
Join the field, sir.
We have Mr. Arvind Brara, CMD of Mantech Consultants. Mr. Brara is an international personality and doing technical and management consultancy abroad apart from doing same in India. We have Professor Reshma Shah, Senior Associate Professor of CEPT University. She had worked earlier with the real estate developer. Uh, okay. This warning is to me, is it? 10% battery. Okay. Now, she is associated with teaching construction technology. He is the project coordinator and has received ICI Ultratech Award for Outstanding Concrete Structures for places. With that, we have this illustrious list of panelists, and may I request Mr. Alok Bhomik to come forward now as a panelist and give us his contribution as a panelist. Mr. Alok Bhomik.
Thank you, sir, for the nice introduction. Uh, I have been asked to talk about the role of structural engineers in the society in post-COVID scenario. And I will restrict myself to only this part to begin with in my opening remarks. So, firstly, before I talk about the role of structural engineers in the post-COVID scenario, let me say that structural engineering profession is an extremely important profession, and they have a very important role to play in the society, be it pre-COVID or post-COVID, irrespective of the situation. Uh, it is well known, I mean, for those who may not be very fully attached as a structural engineering is a sub-discipline of civil engineering. And civil engineering, as we all know, is the oldest profession in human existence. Let us not forget that over the centuries, we have created this built habitat. I think today, whatever activities we do, starting from getting up early in the morning till we go to bed, any activity that we do, including the place where we live, roads that we travel, water that we drink, and where we work, everything is creation of civil engineers in general and structural engineers. We structural engineers are trained to design practically the bones and muscles that create the form and shape of the man-made structures. So we are responsible for the built habitat which is around us. The role of structural engineers becomes more and more important in case of a disaster, be it floods, be it cyclone, be it earthquake, or be it a pandemic like what we are witnessing now. Unfortunately, despite such a huge contribution to this profession, we are not in the limelight. Common man do not know the role of structural engineers. In fact, it is very surprising when many of my own friends, when they see a good building and when they see a good bridge, they say, who is the architect? I mean, who is the person, who is the architect for this structure? And that is little disappointing. So in summary, as a structural engineer, I mean, structural engineering is a novel profession that combines sound, profound scientific and theoretical knowledge with a lot of creativity. This profession requires a lot of ingenuity, and we need the best brains in this profession. Now, let's talk about the post-COVID scenario. We all know that this COVID-19 is the biggest humanitarian and economic crisis of the century. I think all of us living, we have never sort of witnessed, this kind of scenario before. And this is definitely going to have an adverse economic impact in all sectors. And as I said earlier, we are no exception. This post-COVID has thrown added challenges to us structural engineers. Future is completely uncertain and unknown to us. But one thing is certain about the future, and that is the future is going to be different from the past. We have to re-engineer and reshape our future. The role of us structural engineers in this change scenario will completely change in my view. It will be more and more prominent, and we will have to take a leadership role in my view. Our culture of working, our technology will have to make a sea change. Digital technology will be more and more in use. Planning of structures will also have to change. You know, we'll have to factor in many things which we have not seen earlier. We have to revisit the traffic demands based on which we plan our roads and bridges. Our planning for residential buildings now have to factor in the concept of work from home culture. We have to use more and more of digital technology because some of us will be working from home, some of us will be working from office. And how to maintain a quality control in this kind of a scenario, we have to think differently. We have to come out with designs which is, you know, having minimum on-site activity, maximum work with the factory environment. Precasting, I think, will need to be I mean, it has to be all structures. We have to think of maximum precasting and minimum on-site activity so that we can maintain a social distancing. We can, you know, ensure that there is no congregation. Those who can adapt to this new technology faster within our structural engineering community, they will gain more prominence and more opportunities. And those who do not change will find it difficult to survive. Role of professional associations like IAStructE, like CEI will also change, I'm sure.
One
We have
minute,
to
sir.
find, yeah, okay, I'll just finish. We have to find new ways to disseminate knowledge and new materials to talk about in our fraternity. Our business model will have to change. We so far, you know, our revenue comes from the management of various events, international seminars, refresher courses, etc., which were physical. Today, the whole scenario has changed. Our business model have to change. We have to more and more use this virtual mode for organizing seminars, workshops, and I think the whole scenario has changed. To conclude, I would say that lastly, you know, COVID-19 is a shared burden by all of us. All of us need to understand this. Whether we are an employer or an employee in a consulting engineer, we have to understand and accommodate each other. We have to embrace many unknowns and we have to reimagine our future. What I see is a bigger role for we structural engineers in future. And I would like to just quote to conclude a vision document by the American Society of Civil Engineers in this regard, which says that the civil and structural engineers will be the planners, designers, and constructors and operators. They will be the stewards of the environment, the innovators and the integrators of technology, the managers of risk, and the leaders in public policy. I mean, this is easier said than done. This is, of course, not an easy task. It requires for us to have a teeth, which would require empowerment of civil engineers. And maybe we can have a separate panel discussion on this issue. We are talking about engineers' bill and things like that. So with this, I would now turn over to the moderator, Mr. Ghoshal. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Bhomik, for bringing in the. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. You know, for bringing in the problems that we are facing, the profession as such is facing today, and we have got to find out solution. I would look forward to Mr. I.K. Pandey, who is the second speaker, and who can really give us some insight into where structural engineers can still look forward to get some solace out of this bleak picture. Mr. Pandey.
Thank you, Chairman. President, Indian Association of Structural Engineers, panelists, and other fellow participants. I extend my thanks to the Indian Association of Structural Engineers to share my views and understand the issues raised by the various panelists to further improve upon policies and programs which can benefit the nation as a whole. I have been given a topic to talk about the opportunities for structural engineers in asset management and in infrastructure development. lot of, apprehensions has been shown as if there will be no, business opportunities or difficulty in performing by the structural engineers. In my opinion, your job is going to be tough, but more, and you will have more opportunities to, contribute in the nation building and the development of structures. As far as my ministry is concerned, we are developing highways, and under the highways, various structures, bridges, flyovers, and other things. Just to have an idea, I would like to mention that we have a 5.6 lakhs kilometers of road length, about 1.33 lakhs kilometer length of national highways. And under these, we have a lot of structures. And as in rough inventory, we have 1,72,000 bridges on national highways. We have already embarked upon a very ambitious program, that is Bharat Mala Pariyojana, under which around 24,800 kilometers of new national highways has to be created, which covers economic corridors of 9,000 kilometers, inter corridors of 6,000 kilometers, national corridor of 5,000 kilometers, expressway 800 kilometers, coastal and port connectivity of 2,000 kilometers. And all these highways are going to be constructed almost anew, and structures will come upon this. Till now, only 9,000 kilometers has been taken up for award of the work. So design and construction will take place, now, and further other balance, stretches has to be taken in sequential manner. This is only about the one Pariyojana. There are other programs as well. The Char Dham, which covers 889 kilometers, then SARDP, NE, is still a lot of work is to be done in northeastern region. Around 5,000 kilometers of road length has to be covered, under which all the structures will come up for the designs. Just to give an idea that we have also taken up very extra long bridges under for construction, and namely the Fapamau Bridge, which is 3,600 meter length, Kosi Bridge 6,930 meters, Ganga Bridge 5,400 meters, Dubri Fulwari almost 10 kilometer, Bikram Sila Setu 4,400 meters, Sahibganj Bridge 6,000 meters. And there are so many, long extra bridges which are coming up, besides the minor bridges and other major bridges. And lot of opportunities already over there. Asset management of the existing bridges is another important aspect, which gives another opportunity for all the structural engineers to investigate for repair and rehabilitation. We had earlier taken up a program of bridge inventorization and investigation of bridges, which was discontinued because of some issues with that. We are again going to start this program, and we will be taking up this very soon. So this will give another opportunity for all the structural engineers to work upon the repair and rehabilitation, investigation, forensic investigations of these kind of bridges. But certainly as already been told, we have to change our working, we have to change our methodologies, design principles, not exactly design principles, but the way we have been designing, or we have been advocating the conventional methods. Now ministry and everybody in the country feels that precast technologies should come in a big way, so that the standard designs can be followed and scale of economies can be used to reduce the cost, accelerate the construction, and give a better quality of these structures. And that's why, I mean, we have also formed a group of, eminent engineers, including the IITs, to formulate a plan and policy guidelines so that we can move on the precast technologies in a big way. This precast technology, I feel, will not only benefit the bridge construction, but also in other structures as well. As far as, I mean, asset management of the existing bridges is concerned, we have to, I mean, transform our methods of investigations using drones, high resolution cameras, thermal cameras, robots, and using the virtual imaging tools to create an environment through which we can inspect a bridge sitting in our home with remote sensing technologies, GPS enabled and internet protocols with minimum intervention at site. So these are the new way of doing things which we have to, transform ourselves.
1 minute, sir.
We have to engage in the new technology, materials and methods using ultra high performance concrete. We have started one project in Latur where we are going with T-girder bridge of length of 60-meter length using ultra high performance concrete. And if this is also with the precast technology. If such kind of technologies can be mastered and started using, we will be saving around 30% of the cost. So that is our, initiative to introduce more such type of technologies. And here we expect that the structural engineers will come forward to introduce such type of new technologies, new method of constructions. Other locally available materials should also be used. Geosynthetic reinforced soil integrated bridge systems can be introduced, which is not, being practiced so far. There is another, field which is almost, missing in our scenario in the country. That is the health monitoring system of the bridges. We have to introduce the instrumentation in the existing long span bridges and almost in all the new bridges. Putting sensors for all kinds of, health monitoring, embedding with GPS enabled systems and internet protocol, we can, monitor their health without physically inspecting those bridges very frequently. And only when it is required, we can see the, physically we can inspect those bridges and we can intervene whenever a slight, failure or any type of things is observed. And this timely intervention will save further, degradation of the structure and will also enhance its cost effectiveness in rehabilitation. In my opinion, there is no, should not be any apprehension that the structural engineering is going to lose any opportunities, but this will enhance opportunities. Only thing is that we have to, change our system of working. We have all, we in the ministry have started doing all kinds of meetings through only video conferencing. This has obviated the need of traveling and coming to my office, wasting so much of time. And one, apprehension has been, or one problem has been raised by the Mr. Ghosal, that the bills are pending. I really don't know where the bills are pending. If these bills are pertaining to ministry, please bring it out to us. We'll see that these are, cleared. We have already taken a decision that during the COVID period, even who the supervision consultants and even any consultants who are engaged in the job are working from home, they must be considered as on duty. And all the supervision consultants engaged in this thing, including the structural average engineers, are paid their salary as if they were on duty. So we are taking care of all those kind of things. With these words, I would finish my lecture or my views, and look forward to, more contribution from the structural engineers in the nation building. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pandey. You bring in a lot of sunshine in our gloomy atmosphere. You see, every consultant today, and structural consultants included, are worried that government will have paucity of funds and therefore their payments will be delayed. And it is happening. Yes, I accept and we thank Ministry of Roads and Highways for very prompt action on all the requests done by consultants. Mr. Pandey has been in the forefront for that. Mr. Pandey has also given us the hope of all the news projects or the projects which have been pending that are not going to be stopped. Our fear had been coming from the apprehension that there will be delayed installation of these projects. And therefore, there will be a shortfall in business. The prospect of taking up asset management, more than that, the health monitoring of bridges, as is done abroad, will certainly open out a big avenue for this, for us, the structural consultants. And it's a very good news that these are being considered, and we look forward to the future with better option or with a better optimism. Thank you, Mr. Pandey, for giving us this good news.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now I have got to request Professor Tandon sir, and as Mr. Tandon even in his introductory speech mentioned, the problems that are faced with work from home and the sort of limitations structural consultants are going to face in delivering their deliverables in time and making bill and getting paid. In this era of digital technology, digitization has started in India, but we are much behind what has been achieved in the developed countries. And we have to make up very quickly so that we can have the situation just like the European consultants when we look forward to a lockdown as a welcome feature rather than as a threat. Well, over to Mr. Tandon. We look forward to your suggestions for rapid digitization and also the problems that are being faced, how to get over it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ghoshal. It is always a pleasure to hear Mr. I.K. Pandey because whatever he says is always encouraging, and at least it gives some light in this darkness that we are facing. This is not only today, I have heard him many times before, and he has always been very, very encouraging to structural engineers, and I thank him for that. So, friends, the subject given to me is embracing the new culture. First, I would like to say that there are indeed, as Mr. Ghoshal mentioned, certain advantages of working from home. The freedom and the flexibility that you never had when you were doing this 9 to 6 job in the office are now available to you. In addition to that, you have the travel time which you were spending, which on an average could be more than 2 hours in both directions put together, 2 or 2.5 hours. That's the time that our people take. That is a bonus that you get. But first we must understand that whatever structural engineers do, it is almost always in teamwork. We cannot do something just by ourselves. One person doing structural engineering is a rarity. As a matter of fact, I think it is a species which is disappearing more or less. So you have to have a team, and we are not working as journalists or something where we can sit down and write something and send it to our newspaper. Not only do we require a team, there is a certain morale of the team which you have to keep up, and that comes only by frequent interaction. If you are closeted somewhere in your home and you have no means of communication, then of course it is a complete disaster. So what are the requirements that you have for working from home? So I have listed out some of them from our own experience. First, you must get a good study table and chair. And if you read the newspaper, you would have found out that these e-commerce people have been selling e-commerce, the study tables and chairs, which constitute now about 30 to 40% of their total business. Prior to the lockdown, it was about 10 to 15%. The rest of it was other types of furniture. The second thing that you have to have, and which is the most essential part, is a strong internet connection. Without that, I think you will be isolated. The strong internet connection, when I say, it comes along with a not so erratic power supply. If you don't have a reliable power supply in your work, in your home, please get an inverter so that you can continuously do your work without interruption. There are many softwares which are placed as into the shared data of an organization. We use most of these softwares. As a matter of fact, it is not that each person has his own software license, but it is a combined license for the entire organization, and you get a part of it so that you can also use it. Now, these type of opportunities, if you don't have them, you must get them, so that even when you are working far away, not in the office, but from home, you have the possibility of using these softwares because they are expensive. The other thing is that structural engineers don't do only calculations. After that, all their work has to be converted into drawings. And here come the CAD persons. Our drawings are so complex that the engineers themselves may not be able to make them. So you have specialist people who do all the CAD work. And it is so time consuming that if engineers started also doing the CAD work, they would not be able to do very much, produce very much. So now the question is that your work really is divided into two parts: the designs that you are doing at home and the CAD person who's making your drawings, who's located at his home. So there has to be a very reliable connection by which you can transfer information from each other, you can talk to each other. And these days there are many softwares available, like one of them is AnyDesk. For example, you can even take charge with the permission of the other person to use a mouse to give him directions on the other person's uh, 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 computer. Whatever is on his screen, you can monitor that and tell him what is to be done. And this interaction is so important, because finally it is not the designs which go to the site, it is the drawings which have to be sent there. Almost all structural engineers have to cross-check drawings. This cannot be done by the means that I have just mentioned. This is only for interaction, or a interaction that is efficient between the engineer and the CAD person. Drawings have to be checked and rechecked by structural engineers who have made the designs. And for this, you require printouts. It cannot be done only on looking at the computer. And when you talk about drawings, this A4 size printers may be good to read letters, etc., or sometimes even take out printouts of your email, but they are not adequate for the structural engineering drawings that we have to make, at least for many of the projects. So an A3 size printer is another thing that I think that you have to invest in. The A3 size printer can be located either in the CAD person's premises, or it can be located in the engineer's premises, because exchange of files is, I am presuming, is a given, because that is why I started with all that, what all you require, the strong internet connection and teamwork, etc. The other important issue is that when you are in the office, there are various means of backups. All the work that you do, you never know when suddenly the computer may stop working, or midway between something the light may go off. So we almost always have a frequent backup operation going on. As a matter of fact, in many of the offices, they use the Google storage, which means that as you are working, it is being stored. And this is most important, because all the work that you do, wherever you may do it, if it gets lost, then there is no point. In conclusion about working from home, I would like to say that in effect, you have to duplicate the full workstation at home. There are no shortcuts in that. Of course, it requires a lot of expenditure. And I hope with the good, with the promising words that we have heard from at least Mr. I.K. Pandey, I hope that the other government offices do the same. Not only government offices, we are often working with contractors, and we often hear this excuse or reason for the delay in payments, that all the people have gone back to their states, and now when they come back only we will start, and in the meantime our work has slowed down. Since the work has slowed down, we can't bill very much. So if we can't bill very much, we can't pay very much. So these are the type of arguments that we hear from our contractor clients. Finally, I think I would like to close on at least a cheerful note, I would like to share a story from a friend of mine who lives in Mumbai, and his 4-year-old daughter has observed her father does not leave home. She never had the fortune of seeing him all the time sitting at home. She rarely saw him because her school was very early, so she never saw him. At night, by the time the father comes home, uh, she's already put to bed or she's just about finishing her dinner. So she never had the opportunity to really get close to him. But in this COVID times, she has become pretty close to her father. And she one day came and sat down in his lap and looked at him and said, पापा क्या आपको जॉब से निकाल दिया गया है? So, so these are some of the funny things that happen, and we realize how observant children are and how they can come to their own conclusions about things unless you explain to them why you are in this state where you don't have to go out to the office. Okay, thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Mr. Tandon, for winding up with a story that has become everyday affair in many homes. You know, people are getting surprised at seeing that the father is not leaving home, and that sums up the fallacy that we are in COVID situation. We have come out with suggestions on how to improve work from home, but at the same time, we have got to look at the cost which is there, and we have got to provide for same in our future pricing. We'll come back to Mr. Tandon for more guidance at the discussion stage. Now we have Mr. Sharma, who has a very large task. He is going to talk on developing leadership in structural engineering, but that covers an enormous field, and Mr. Sharma has a long list of questions put by the coordinator onto him, and I wish him good luck to be able to finish within 8 minutes. You know, Reshma will be giving you a warning at 7 minutes. So I hand over to you, Mr. Sharma. Let's
Thank you, Mr. Ghoshal, and thanks to the other panelists also, and IAStructE for giving me an opportunity. I have been tasked with the 7 issues to be covered, and I have been given 8 minutes. Perfectly fine. I'll try to do justice within those 8 minutes. Anyway, the issue those I am to cover is the importance of the structural engineers in the society, recognition of the structural engineers in the society, embracing new and digital technology, as well as the role of professional associations in the post-COVID scenario, rehab and retrofitting of the government assets. In addition, there are 2 more points, that is study of hazard resilience of structures and essential facilities, and role of private structural consultants in the government works. So these are the 7 issues I have to cover up during these 8 or 9 minutes, whatever you have assigned to me. So as far as the importance of the structural engineers are concerned, I will say it only in one statement. And role of structural engineers is that of with this statement that Almighty God has created this beautiful world, which is comprised of creatures and vegetation over its surface. These creatures are inside the water as well as in the air. These God would not have realized his dream without a just adequate skeleton of bone structure in the humans, animals, and birds, which is functional as well as stable. So this is the role of structural engineers in the society for the infrastructure, for the built infrastructure which is coming up in the society. So with this only I cover this. This is the importance of the structural engineer in the society. So as far as structural engineers are concerned, they are the most fundamental engineering practice amongst all the disciplines of the engineering. None of the engineering discipline can survive without the structural engineers. In regard to the recognition in the society, it is already covered by Mr. Bhamek in his discussion that architects, everybody asks for the engineering structure also who is the architect. So professional practices are invariable so engineering is not recognized, whereas architect profession is recognized in the law, whereas engineering profession has not been recognized in the law. Professional practices are invariably recognized like medical, chartered accountants, company secretaries, lawyers. Every practice has a law, but there is no law related to engineering practice. Even though engineering is directly related to the public safety, but similar to medical profession, it has not been recognized as a profession. Structural engineering is a profession practiced mostly by the specialist civil engineers. In absence of the code of ethics, because there is no code of ethics defined, because of non-availability of the Engineers Act. So unethical engineers and even those without the qualification or experience who are available at much lower remunerations are being allowed to practice structural engineering in India. For example, architects not responsible for the public safety as per the Architects Act 1972 invariably obtain a composite job of architectural and structural engineering consultancy. In absence of any insurance liability for the public safety required by the law, they provide structural engineering services also, most of the times by employing engineers at a much lower remuneration than they actually deserve. Hence, in this competitive commercial environment, the competent and qualified structural engineers are compelled to either lose a job or work at an unworkable price. Thus, the dignity and honor of qualified engineering professionals is being compromised. In view of this situation prevailing in the country, following measures can only bring in an image improvement of the structural engineers in the society. This is by promulgation of an Engineers Act for regulating the engineering practice in India, which would allow engineering practice only by competent engineering professionals. It has to be necessarily through a licensing regime recognized by law, through a regulatory institution based on professional qualification, examination of competence, and minimum experience. Till such time, the Engineers Act is promulgated, the government should bring out an ordinance mandating awarding of separate consultancy contracts for the architects wherein public safety is not involved and the structural engineering services wherein public safety is of paramount importance. Instead of the practice being followed for a single composite consultancy contract. CPWD has already mandated through a circular to its own staff. It is not mandatory for the public, but for the in-house consumption of CPWD, they have issued a circular according to which the works of consultancy are to be awarded separately for the architectural and structural engineering services. Other departments of the government should also follow this suit, this practice. So in regarding to the digital technology, embracing new digital technology, the government has already taken action on creating the infrastructure by launching the Digital India initiative. Government is serious in strengthening the digital technology infrastructure. In the past few years, now high-speed digital technology has penetrated even up to the village level. We as structural engineers in both government as well as in the private sector are already using digital technology for load calculations, structural analysis, design, including preparation of structural drawings using various software available in the market. We are also using the building information modeling for ensuring coordinated architectural, structural, and services drawing. This is not only for a coordinated construction at the site, but also for the project management, including measurements and payment to the contractors. To my understanding, it is not for the government as on date, it is for us as structural engineers to embrace the new and digital technology. Government is already in action mode, for which nothing more is required to be done by us in the current scenario. In regard to the role of associations in this post-COVID scenario, even though partly it has already been covered by Mr. Bhaumik and still I feel that in this post-COVID scenario, the professional associations like IAStructE or CEAI, etc., shall continue to have still a larger role in the post-COVID scenario in dissemination of the knowledge and skill upgradation through the by conduct of various e-meetings, e-conferences, e-seminars, which is now at negligible cost and negligible efforts in relation to what we used to have in the past when we used to do it in physical, with the physical presence of the people. So associations have to now gear up, and now I can see on my email daily 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 e-conferences or webinars on my email box. And now this is being, knowledge dissemination is taking place in a much faster pace as compared to the pre-COVID scenario. Rehab and retrofitting, in regard to the rehab and retrofitting of the government assets, let me say it was never an agenda. It was never an agenda of the government to undertake the repair, rehab and retrofitting of the government assets other than the JNNURM, that is Jawaharlal Nehru National Urban Renewal Mission, which was started about a decade or maybe more than a decade back. And other than this, there is no defined program of rehab and retrofitting of the government assets. The government is understood to have, we had undertaken, we as CPWD had undertaken a condition assessment report of the 5 important buildings of the government of India somewhere in the year 2002 or so after the Gujarat earthquake. And also Delhi government had taken a condition survey and seismic retrofitting job of the 5 lifeline structures in the year 2005-06, covering school, police headquarters, Delhi Secretariat at ITO, and a hospital for their retrofitting, for their condition survey and retrofitting. Even these retrofitting programs are understood to have not been either taken up, or if these are taken up, these are not yet completed. So under the circumstances, it is a job required to be taken up. However, it is understood that from Mr. I.K. Pandey also mentioned in his discussion that there is a program of condition survey of the road bridges and their rehab and retrofitting as may be necessitated based on the condition survey. In regard to the study and determination of the hazard resilience of the structures, it is, let me share with you, government has neither a mechanism to undertake a large scale study and determining the true hazard resilience of the infrastructure available already, built infrastructure available in the cities. This cannot be taken by the government alone. Determination of the hazard resilience of the built infrastructure, wherever, whether governmental or private, and their rehabilitation and retrofitting could be ensured by the government only through a standard operating procedure SOP, making use of the licensed practicing structural engineering professional force. This is practically achievable using the private structural engineers who are doing the practice. This is achievable by putting onus on the owner of the structure of submitting the structural safety certificate at specified intervals of such old buildings, old built infrastructure which are beyond a specified age and located within the municipal limits. This could be implemented by the municipal corporations through owners of such buildings infrastructure by getting the condition survey done as per mandatory SOP, carry out its rehabilitation and based on such condition survey, and obtain a structural safety certificate from a licensed structural engineering professional. This was recommended by CPWD to avoid disasters in future due to unsafe built infrastructure while responding to the investigating committee of East Delhi Municipal Corporation in the aftermath of a collapse of a 4 to 5 storied building in Lakshmi Nagar area during the year 2009 or 11. As far as the role of the private structural firms in the government works, this is the issue. It may be recalled that when the country had liberated and got the freedom, at that stage, there was almost absence of the private architectural and structural engineering consultancy organization in the country. So that time, CPWD had its own in-house planning and design offices with competent and willing officers. All important buildings covering Supreme Court, National Museum, Parliament Annexi, Udyog Bhavan, Krishi Bhavan, Rail Bhavan, etc., etc. These were all constructed by planning and designing in-house within CPWD. Now, as on date, the scenario has changed. CPWD is unable to attract willing and competent engineers and architects to its planning and design offices. On the contrary, private consultants of good repute are available in substantial numbers. Therefore, CPWD has started offloading, more so in case of the major projects, on case-to-case basis, its planning and design load to private consultants based on competitive bidding. Many a times, the owners of the projects also insist to have their own architects. In such cases also, CPWD is taking services from the consultancy firm appointed by the clients. Now, in a bid to ensure expeditious completion of the project, government had been insisting on CPWD to outsource the project on EPC mode, that is engineering project procurement and testing mode. At present, most of the projects are being awarded to construction agencies wherein the entire responsibility of architectural, engineering, planning, design, and getting approvals from the local body, completion and commissioning, etc., all rests with that construction contractor. So private structural firms having no exposure of the corporate works can now get consultancy jobs through the EPC contract. So while we are awarding the work on the EPC mode, again licensing regime becomes all the more essential. Engineer availability of the engineers bill becomes all the more essential, so that we should be able to get the structural engineering design done from the private consultants. With this coverage, I convey my thanks to the audience and the panelists. Thank you. Thank you.
Kushal sir, we are getting some disturbance from your end.
Yes, with a lot of.
No, there is no disturbance from my side.
Mr. Ghoshal, we are not able to hear you.
Hello,
Yes, sir.
you can hear me now?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma. I think you had kept me muted too long. That is how the voice was lost.
Yeah, I had muted throughout.
Mr. Sharma, thank you very much for having
Was it muted?
But no,
Was
no,
it muted throughout?
No,
no,
sir.
not you,
No, no.
not you. I was muted.
Okay.
Sir, that
Mr.
was
Sharma,
because of disturbance.
you were given the full freedom to talk.
Now
So
you could listen my complete presentation.
yes, you could.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And now, we have Mr. Bipul Ahuja, who is the coordinator of this event. And Mr. Ahuja and myself and the balance two speakers have got to take the larger responsibility of trying to bring back the event within the frame time. You see, we had 4 great speakers to start with, and they have covered an entire gamut of area that was to be covered. It is our task to sum up and finish this event as far as possible within our given time limit. We have already crossed 80 minutes. So Mr. Ahuja is going to talk on source of business for structural engineers post-COVID scenario. Some part of your task has been handled by other speakers already, and we really look forward to listen from you how the new form of construction can be tackled by the structural consultants. Over to Mr. Ahuja.
Thank you, Mr. Ghoshal, and thank you to the association for facilitating this seminar, this webinar, I would say. Um, I I think this whole thing got culminated because we felt that there was a lot of anxiety amongst structural engineers because suddenly the revenue sources have stopped. The staff is discontented. Everybody is in a state of shock or due to the pandemic. So it reminds me of that incident 65 million years ago. They say when when the meteorite fell to the earth, there's a cataclysm. Suddenly there was a huge explosion in the Gulf of Mexico, which wiped out all the dinosaurs from the face of the earth. And it started a winter because of the dust, which threw up in the atmosphere, and the sun rays could not come to the earth. So anything that was all the dinosaurs which were dependent upon either plants or animals only and were very picky eaters, you could say, they perished. Whereas the small creatures below 20 kilos who were away from this, who lived underground and could, survive on scavenging, they are the ones who survived. So cut to 2020, we have a cataclysm kind of a situation in this COVID pandemic, where the structural engineers are faced with this similar situation, do or die. We have to either mold to our circumstances or we have to perish. There is nothing in between. So we have to, if we have the zeal to survive, and I think we should, then I think we have to remold. We have to place ourselves in the mold that will fit us best. For example, if we are only doing buildings, dealing with real estate, for example, people are only doing high-rise buildings, they have to look for other avenues. They have to reskill themselves if they have to. They have to, for example, earlier on we had demonetization, then we had RERA, and finally this pandemic. So people have stopped buying houses. I'm not talking about EWS situations perhaps, but otherwise, buying new houses from choice, they have stopped. So the demand side has stopped entirely. And it will take some time for it to revive, maybe 2 years, 3 years before the old time euphoria to invest in real estate comes up, and then the jobs will start. But in the meantime, we have to think of other avenues to make a living. And for that, we have been, as the association, as an association, we have been offering seminars in the past. We have, on newer technologies. So those can vibration control devices and resilience and performance-based design and all those things. So those things can be revisited, and we can talk about reskilling along those lines. And how will that help us in generating new business? For example, as Mr. Sharma has also said, that government is already in that mode where they have already done some exercises to rejuvenate their old buildings. In fact, I would like to correct him on one small aspect where he mentioned, they gave the example of 5 lifeline buildings, that there were actually 7, and we were involved in 2 or 3 of those, and ours was the only team that went ahead and completed the retrofit of the divisional commissioner's office and 1 or 2 other things also. But in any case, we have to motivate the government as well. And maybe the associations, structural engineers associations also have a part to play in this. I think the general structural engineers themselves also have to play a part in this to influence the government parlays to pick up those parts for those buildings, their assets, which need maintenance, that need rehabilitation, that need retrofitting. Now, how do we say, how will you be convinced that, or how will the government be convinced, or any client be convinced that their building needs a retrofit? Now, we have offered some tools in the past in our seminars, by which you can quantify resilience. That means how much will be your downtime after a major earthquake. But in fact, those concepts are even true for these pandemic, like this one that we have. How much is the downtime? I mean, you ask yourself today as a structural engineer, if you are an employer, that how much time and money you have lost because of this pandemic. Now, what if there was an earthquake and the general public at large was subject to this kind of a misery? Suddenly, the building fell, collapsed, and there was this everywhere. There was fear everywhere. How long would it take for you to start your business again? So the concept of a death, DDD, or death, dollar, and downtime, this was floated. So this is called resilience of the structure, and we can project this on a building by building basis to the government, and we can tell them that, look, if there was an earthquake today, it's not enough that the building is standing. And for example, the police headquarters, something has to be done that it is still working, it is operational. Hospitals, every schools, whatever. Not only those assets, even actually these days, the big builders are very concerned because foreign investments are involved in their ventures. And they are concerned even themselves more than the government that their buildings are resilient. If it is highlighted to them that their downtime is going to be more than 6 months, nobody will invest in their ventures. Look at the amount of economic loss. So engineers have to retrain themselves into risk assessment of buildings. In fact, now insurers are hiring, international insurers are hiring structural consultants and even employing them in risk assessment things, where actually they interact with actuaries to tell them how much is the risk that is involved. So I would say, and then not only that, there are so many vibration control technologies like dampers and so on, which can be easily put into buildings, and their resilience can be certainly improved a lot. But you just can't arbitrarily put it. You need to be up to speed with the technology to do it. Or we could do it by performance-based design, So you don't
minute,
have to
sir.
go revamp the whole thing a lot. For example, today, even as we speak, the buildings on soft stories are being built all over town. You know, up to 500-yard coties are being built on on stilts, because ground floor is all parking without regards, and anybody can call himself a structural engineer today, and they are just going on designing and building the buildings, and you can see the catastrophe that can happen if there was an earthquake. So these kind of things, we can also assess these kind of buildings with performance-based design, and choose where only those elements, joints to which we have to beef up, instead of bringing down the building or whatever. So we have to be equipped with new technologies. These are our new marketing techniques basically, but for that we must, like I re-emphasize, get into being able to quantifying resilience and bringing it down to the policymakers, to the clients, to insurers, to all stakeholders. So, the same thing applies in bridges. You know, somebody says that my one bearing is lost, is broken. Now, what do I do? Okay, should I put in a damper instead of this, or should I put a bearing? Somebody is asking this question. Okay, so an informed structural engineer can only guide him that, okay, if you're going to repair these bearings, perhaps both sides, if you put in some dampers, maybe that might be useful or not, depending on the state of the pier. This is an older bridge. Can it be retrofitted by putting in some vibration control devices so that it doesn't overstress the piers? If the piers have to be retrofitted, it is a very huge amount of price tag. So, and same thing now, I think some of our panelists have also mentioned health monitoring of structures. Now, health monitoring of structures also applies not only to bridges, but also to buildings. Many countries have this part of their doctrine. That you must, above a certain height of building, you must monitor the building. You must have sensors in the building to predetermine, what the behavior of the building is going to be. What is the state of deterioration of the building? Along coastline of India, there are so many cities, Bombay being the first one, Mumbai, you have deterioration due to chloride attack and all those things. And, vulnerable parts, it should become a part of the routine management that these buildings are being, assessed, not only for the deterioration, but due to deterioration, if there's an earthquake, then what? Okay, that resilience is not being talked about. Only we are just, the band-aid job is going to be done. We'll bring it up back to the same strength as it was earlier, presumably, by some patchwork of chemicals, destruction chemicals or whatever. But we don't know the resilience still. So we must add this factor of resilience to that and make the departments aware, make the clients aware, make the stakeholders aware. That's the only way that I think that we can get more business, and to do that, we must emphasize on reskilling ourselves. So I think that our esteemed audience should go away thinking that I think there is hope, but we have to help ourselves, because God helps those who help themselves. So that's a important mantra. I think that we will not generate business. Business will not fall into our lap. We will have to work for it, and then business will come. And when we have these frequent seminars, which disseminate knowledge, we must make it a point to, attend those, assimilate that knowledge, read by ourselves, upgrade ourselves, skills. I can even propose that our association starts a system of PDH, which is called Professional Development Hours, and some kind of tracking device that our members are doing. Okay, so we can highlight that our members have got so many hours of technical PDHs, and there can be a member thing straight away. As far as our young members are concerned, despite some of my friends, good friends in the association saying not to say any discouraging words, I would like to caution them that our area is a very satisfying area, but for the person who is motivated, but not for the person who is looking for quick rewards, then probably a management degree is probably much better. Because unless you are totally dedicated to this profession, you're always looking at the future in a holistic way. You're always looking for upgrading your own skills. For example, many of us, who may be 50 plus, will half of us at least will be computer challenged, and but if you look at even other professions, I think that percentage would be much higher. Why? Because in structural engineering, we needed, this was our bread and butter. We had to do this. If we didn't get into this as youngsters, we could not have survived. So same way, for the newer technology, for example, I'm talking about resilience. I'm talking about vibration control devices. I'm talking about performance-based design. All these newer technologies, unless we embrace, even the people, the senior people in the profession, unless we embrace these and we start having a vision while looking at this, while keeping all these things in mind, I think we will not survive too long. So youngsters who are willing to take this on as a profession and as this as a challenge, you will not find the kick or the that you would normally get as a structural engineer. I would say I use the word kick in a very it's a colloquial word, but the ecstasy that you feel for having accomplished a job. When you look at the building, the structure, the bridge that you built, and you stand back and you look at it, the benefit to the society, you get a great amount of satisfaction from it. I think one of the presidents of the US once said, after looking at the Golden Gate Bridge that was built, they said structural engineering is a profession where the engineer is not looking for, praise from the society or from his clients or from anyone else. He is only looking for recognition from his peer group, because he only knows that his peer group is the one, whose praise is real. So if a fellow engineer refers you as an engineer, then you truly value it. And that is true for any professional. If a doctor refers another doctor, I would run to that doctor and, consult him. But if a patient refers me to a doctor, I would go to him with half faith, because the patient himself is only one point of experience. He does not represent, a massive amount of, a big sample size. So same thing is with us structural engineers. And so finally, in order to get more projects, in order to be more employable, in order to be more visible, all these factors will have to go hand in hand. So with that, I would like to wind up. I hope I have not exceeded my time, and I hope the other panelists, I have not bitten into their time, and I would like to thank the association one more time, and to everybody for lending these crazy ideas that I have normally, which are a little bit offbeat. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Aulia, for bringing your wealth of knowledge in this event, and you have given all the structural engineers present here ammunition to think. We are behind time, as I had mentioned, and it is now my turn to prove that we can do it in shorter time. I have got to take up my theme. My theme is how to improve resilience in consultancy sector. We have already mentioned that consultants are in dire financial strait, and today we are facing many additional costs in trying to increase the infrastructure in our offices and by working from home. Now, where do we find solace? It has to be from organizations like IAStructE, CEI, who are representing the professionals. You see, we have twin tasks. We have to train systematically our members on how to do their task in a shorter time and how to reduce their cost of deliverables. We have got to list for them the hardware and software that a smaller consultant, a smaller size organization can do with. Everybody does not require a beam. Everybody does not require the highest degree of hardware, highest standard of hardware for his work. CEI is going to conduct a webinar on that, how smaller and medium-sized consultants can do work from home in a more economic fashion. Such things will have to be done more and more by IAStructE in educating our people. The second task we have got is fight together for getting concessions from our clients and for getting arrangements such that the consultants have a healthier balance sheet. You know, some departments like Mr. I.K. Pandey's, they have been very, very friendly towards the profession, I must say. Mr. Pandey department has decided to reduce the TDS for DPRs to 2% or rather 1.5%. Now, it is absolutely silly to charge consultants 10% TDS because no consultant makes 30% profit. They can't. And only if 30% profit is there, 10% TDS will be there. So it has been very, very good that he has given a lead, and we hope, and it is our duty to take it to all other departments such that this can be replicated. To Mr. Pandey, I will make an appeal that this concession should be extended also to the project management consultants. So they also have to have this relief. And we as organization will certainly approach it. One thing that we have to fight is how to get rid of this lowest tender selection. This L1 is something we must fight together, and we must come out of this L1 regime, which has already been discussed, and even organizations like Niti Aayog and CVC had participated in a seminar where the Honorable Minister Mr. Gadkari was present, and everybody understood the logic. Now we are going to put it to action such that people are not tempted to quote unworkable rates and thereby decimate themselves. We have got to come back with requests to our employers that the terms of payment has to be eased. Now a consultant does a work, after he completes everything, he submits his bill, the department has got to take its time to check the bill, and by the time the payment comes, his work is almost over, even for his first bill. Now, this is a situation which must change. There should be a provision that 80% of the bill should be paid on submission after it has been just checked that it fulfills the criteria in the NIT. And the rest can be done after checking. Rest payment can be released after checking. Similarly, you know, the work which are done by vendors like survey, soil investigation, the NDT testing, all these should be payable on payment. Otherwise, the consultants are paying it from their pocket. They are in fact trying to finance the project. It is the consultants and contractors who are financing the project and allowing the client to delay his payment. In a way, he is investing into the project. Now, this is not possible for consultants at least, and we have got to take this as a major issue for relief. GST, of course, is a travesty of justice. You submit a bill and you pay, deposit 18%. If you don't deposit, you have a hefty fine. Now, this is just does not logic. And therefore, GST has to be either on receipt or it has to be, after it has to be waived altogether, particularly for jobs being given by the government. What is the sense of taking money from one department to another in the form of GST? After all, GST is payable by government. And what is the benefit when GST is paid by the department and subsequently again deposited with another department? I mean, this is something which has to be thought by the authorities. The good news is we have some facility in the MSME sector. There has been relaxations in the MSME sector. The limits have been increased. The payments particularly for suppliers have been limited to 45 days, and that is a facility which should come to service providers like consultants as well. And the other good news is that for global tenders up to 200 crore, it will be limited to Indian consultants and it will not go. With Atmanirbhar Bharat, this is a limit which has got to go up. After all, we must be given the freedom to bid for jobs which are being funded by our own country. And there should not be competition from unholy multinationals who have just set up an organization in India and thereby claiming to be Indian consultants. Government has also set up an organization called SEPC, Service Export Promotion Council. Service is a sector which is receiving attention from the government, and fortunately, engineering is one of the champion sectors, is being viewed as a champion sector, and therefore impetus will come for service export from government. This is a good news for consultants, particularly for structural consultants. When we improve our digitization, we shall be in a better mode to export structural consultancy. We shall be in a better situation to export our expertise, because we shall be able to hold hands of the main designer or the main consultant or even the EPC contractor, even if he is abroad, with our better capability of working faster and together. I think these are the issues, a responsibility of organizations like ours. We accept it and we shall fight for it, but we require all the consultants, all the engineers to strengthen their organization so that we can all fight together. Fight has to be total, and therefore we must try to make a unified approach. With that, I will request Mr. Brava, who is the MD of Mantech Consultant. As I mentioned, Mr. Brava has his presence internationally, and today, when we are afraid of getting enough jobs in the country, if we can go abroad, that will be one of our reliefs. Hopefully, the people, the richer countries will come back on a working mode much faster.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I know we are a little behind schedule, so I'll try and complete this in less than 8 minutes, probably in 6. I'd like to start, to talk about the international opportunities for structural engineers by giving a quick case example. I had gone to Vienna along with the client to actually, he wanted to purchase some machinery and bring it back to India. So when we were in Vienna, I realized that UNIDO is headquartered there. So I said, let me go and, visit UNIDO and see if I can get any benefit for my company called Mantech Consultants. So when I went there, of course, they don't allow you to come in unless you have an appointment. So I asked for who's the person from India heading the Indian mission, and I then went and met him and told him that my company is Mantech and we are a consulting organization, and I was wondering if there can be any opportunities from UNIDO. So he said, well, UNIDO is looking for MSME level consultants. The big ones don't need any help, but we want to help MSME consultants. So you go and meet one Mr. Paul, and I met him. And he said, well, we are wanting to do some work in Africa under the Montreal Protocol to see these 3 countries, Egypt, Kenya, and Nigeria, how much they have implemented Montreal Protocol. Now, to be honest, I had read about Montreal Protocol like in the newspaper, but I was no expert. I didn't know much about it. But he was good enough to say that, okay, I'll send you an RFP, request for proposal, and you have about 10 days to submit an offer. So I was going to Los Angeles. I got the RFP there. And to cut the story short, it required, all these international assignments require good CVs. As a structural engineer, you need to see how you can, strengthen your CV from the international perspective, from the perspective of international agencies. So I got hold of an IIT professor who had done work under Montreal Protocol. I was visiting faculty in management to IIT, so I could get that. Then we had done some work with Sinclair Knight Mertz of Australia under a project Seabird. We are active in the port sector. And they had some experts on the Montreal Protocol work. So actually, interestingly, we put together the proposal with the CVs, and we won the job. Now, if somebody had told me before I had gone to Vienna that you will be working on Montreal Protocol in Africa on an international assignment, I would have thought that that's a fairy tale. But that's true, and let me share this with you. A very major advantage of these international assignments is that you may do 50 Indian assignments or 100 Indian assignments, and that's equivalent to 1 assignment from abroad. So with this assignment, which we did, and I have a letter of appreciation here from UNIDO. We completed the assignment on time, and we got an appreciation letter to Mantech for this. I could make enough money to buy land in Sector 6 Noida and to make the present building which houses Mantech Consultants Environment Division in Noida. So you can imagine the power of money for international assignments as compared to struggling, competing with each other in India. So having said that, now let me cover how structural engineers could approach getting international assignments. One of the important things is that you need to register with www.ungm.org. That covers all the UN agencies, including ADB. And so, of course, you go to the website and you see, you'll have to navigate and see where you can register as an architecture, as a structural engineering firm or individual. And similarly, there is also European Bank of Reconstruction and Development and other agencies like African Development Bank and so on. So I would strongly urge that even if you have not done any international assignments, doesn't matter. You should register and see, and then there are various opportunities which are advertised. Now, you may not get the assignment directly, but you could probably work with some other company to do the international assignment. The other suggestion I have is if you have any connections or contacts in foreign countries, uh, the well, I have a website to register. I've already mentioned it is www.ungm.org. That is for United Nations agencies, but you'll have to search for others. ebrd.com for European Bank of Reconstruction. So anyway, if some of you, we all have some contacts in foreign countries, relatives, friends, etc. You choose one or two companies, and then you should use the commercial counselors in these countries to send your CVs and say that you are available. Now it may look like a long shot, but you know it is not too much effort. And if you do that, I know that Australian high commissions have a mandated duty to help their consulting companies to do work overseas. And some of the commercial counselors are very good, not all, but some of them, and they will help to suggest to you what to do. So it's worth the effort. The other is that if you want to work in some particular countries, identify local agents who would like to help. Like when I started doing some work for ADB, I identified somebody in Manila who would help, and we've done on now a large number of ADB assignments. Another thing is, of course, a joint venture. That depends if you feel the opportunity is very strong. The business associations in various countries, the equivalent of Indian Association of Structural Engineers in other countries could be another source to approach, especially in those countries where the costs are higher. I mean, there's no point in suggesting this to countries where you can hire a structural engineer for about the same cost as you do in India. But if you cover Europe and you cover US, then there is a logic why they would like to hire, at least gets part of the work done from structural engineers in India, because obviously it helps them to reduce cost, and to when they bid they can get a cost advantage for the bid. So I would just like to conclude by saying that do not think that if you haven't worked abroad or you don't know anybody, that means you can't do that. You have to look outside. You have to start with registering with the UN agencies if you've not done so already, and be on the lookout, because it will be well worth it. As I said, one good assignment from abroad is equivalent to many, many assignments from India. So thank you very much for your patience and listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bara, for your encouraging and inspiring presentation and making people feel that they can go out and really explore the foreign market much easier than they would have thought otherwise. I would now request Professor Reshma Shah to make her presentation. Her presentation is mainly targeted towards the younger engineers and the students. And may I again make the so unfair request to be a little faster.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. Good evening to everybody. As far as opportunities which are available for fresh engineers from college are basically they can take up jobs directly after doing their undergraduate, and they can do office as well as field jobs in private sector, public sector, and nowadays they can become entrepreneurship in varied areas like surveying, testing, third-party inspections, billing, project cost estimation. They can even become contractors, material suppliers, as well as they can become developers also. So there is a lot of opportunities available in the industry, and many students after completing their undergraduate are becoming good entrepreneurs, and there are good startup options available from government organizations also. The second option always available to the students is to pursue their higher studies. Higher studies, they can pursue MTech or ME, as well as they can take up MS from countries like US, Canada, Australia, UK, Netherlands. So, and even Germany also, and there are got good colleges from Southeast Asia. So, where the students are pursuing their higher studies. Of course, if they're interested in research, they can take up PhD, and then there are few engineers who opt for even MBA courses also. Now, I will highlight critical specialization areas where students can venture after completing their undergraduate as a civil engineer. The first and the foremost field, of course, is the structural engineering. Second would be geotechnical. The third is construction management. Fourth is real estate and valuation. Fifth is ports and logistics and railways. Sixth is they can take up traffic and transportation engineering. Next is they can take up building information modeling in detail and then can master it and then pursue their careers. Environmental engineering is available. Urban planning and housing is available for them to develop a career. Then the latest one, which is emerging, is geoinformatics, right? Which can be clubbed with any specialization. So that's an emerging field of geoinformatics, which people can take it up. Nuclear engineering, forensic science, which is again an emerging and well preferred areas. Green buildings, that is building energy performance courses are available for doing masters, right? There can be wastewater sanitation and water resource engineering. So there are a lot of opportunities available to develop based on the interest which the students can cultivate. Now, the most important thing which every university has to face is how to cultivate interest for various fields where students can pursue their career or they can take up their masters. So if I talk about personal specific interest, how to cultivate interest in structural engineering and how to always keep it alive, I think I would always insist all engineering universities, while developing their course curriculum, they should develop elective courses as well as courses on bridge construction, industrial construction, specialized structures like overhead, tanks, shells, chimneys, silos. All these types of structures the students needs to be exposed during the undergraduate. This will create the curiosity how to design this type of projects and what role the design takes shape in developing such projects. So if they are exposed to role of structural engineering in this type of projects, definitely we can have a very good outcome of students pursuing the structural engineering and they can appreciate the essence of design in projects. One thing which I always insist and we always follow is we always invite visiting faculties or experts from the industries to teach students based on their convenience. So this really helps to motivate the students and pursue the interest. A lot of model making competitions are held in the universities by the students body themselves so that they have a live hand experience of conducting testing on the models which they are making it. So I think that's one of the tool helps the students to understand the method of designing. Second thing is, sir, the second and the last thing at undergraduate level, which I will insist all the universities is to make one semester mandatory to take up project training or office training. We normally enforce always project training to the students, but then sir, the flexibility should be always given to the students to even they can join design firms. So this will help them to inculcate professional practice which is used in the industry. So exposure to design firms or doing a training for one semester in design firm will really enable them. And the last question which I was assigned was that what steps the university should make for developing young engineers to be industry ready. And specifically, I'll talk again of structural engineering program. Is we normally have subjects like earthquake engineering, foundation engineering, or RCC construction or steel construction subjects. But then the subjects pertaining to design of marine structures, design of bridges, repair and rehabilitation of structures. Again, subjects on pre-stressed concrete and precast concrete, as Mr. Pandey rightly said, that coming era is of precast construction. So this type of subjects have to be introduced at PG level, sir. And then again, repair and retrofitting the subjects, it's again a specialized area which all these subjects have to be taught to the students at PG level. The most and the foremost thing which I would suggest is we always have lecture-based courses, or we have lecture-based teaching pedagogy. Nowadays, we have to move to studio-based pedagogy. Means office-like environment is created in class itself when students are solving the problems which are faced in industry, or you have to yourself design a project, right? So this type of studio-based learning will enable students to grab problems very easily, and this will really make them industry ready. The third thing is basically during their academics, their visits to sites, exposure to technical tools is necessary, exposure to the companies, exposure to the projects, exposure to specialized structures is required. And every semester you have a break, whether it is a summer break or a winter break, some short-term programs or some internships have to be provided to the students. I would again recommend that we should introduce professional practice as a teaching subject in the curriculum, because the professional practice will enable the students to understand the project deliverables which a consultant has to do, which starts with conducting your coordination meetings or giving your design approvals, or making your design basis reports, or how to release good for construction drawings, what is your drawing approval process. All these things needs to be oriented to the students right away whenever they are in academics, so that they are industry ready students, so that they can have a good placement offers from the organizations, and then they can get good recruitments also. The coming to the last point is software exposure. Normally we always expose students while designing to softwares, and softwares I would recommend it now coming apart from STED Pro. ETABS is widely used, so exposure to ETABS, exposure to Midas for bridges, exposures to SAFE and RSCDC, which is your advanced software availability. Those should be again oriented to the students, and their application should be covered by the faculties in their curriculum. I think that is also required. Second thing, today in current era, even in working in during pandemic, we always think that the communication skills are very, very vital skills, which every professional would require. So whatever your ideas, whatever your work is there, whatever you do should be conveyed properly to everybody. So development of communication skills is also very, very vital in any graduate or postgraduate program. So I would recommend that program also. Thank you, sir. I think briefly,
Yeah,
quickly, I have tried to cover whatever were my thoughts.
it has been wonderful to go through. I am also reminded of my college days, where no such guidance used to be given to students, and no such consideration were given to students how they should enjoy their course. You see, we have finished the panelist discussion, and if the response by participants is a criteria, then I find that this webinar has raised a lot of expectations, and it has been welcomed by most of the participants. The major question, major issue which has fired the imagination of the participants and made them think better is the statement of Mr. Pandey that there are going to be regular coordination of the existing bridges. There are going to be inspection and testing regime, and also there will be many, many more long-span bridges to come up. Naturally, the structural consultants have found this most stimulating thought to themselves. If Mr. Pandey is still here, may I ask you to comment on this aspect? Mr. Pandey, are you there, please? Mr. Pandey, yes. Sir, have you, shall I repeat the question, or you heard me?
Yes, I mean, I have heard your question.
Yeah.
And as I have already informed in my previous sharing of the views. There is a lot of opportunity for new works. New bridge designs and execution and supervision works already on anvil. And because of the COVID, there is no likelihood of, relegating these projects. So this will certainly be continued. Furthermore, the inventorization of bridges, we are going to start soon. There will be a continuous, work on these aspects for inspection, repair, and rehabilitation of the bridges. I think with this, this is the clarification you wanted?
Well, there have been, as I mentioned, that the lot of people have got excited that this is a new trend which is going to start, that there will be regular maintenance and regular inspection of bridges, long span bridges, so that they can be attended much earlier than they deteriorate, and how quickly this will come into practice. That is what, is question raised by many. And the other issue is this asset management, with what you have indicated, that it is going to be done, all the structures are going to be assessed. How again this will be taking off and how quickly they will take off. People are impatient. They would like to know how fast they can be engaged in such matters. And of course, taking a lead from your department, it is our duty to approach every other department having major assets like the Urban Development Ministry and things like that, to have such assets management. If you have something to add.
We are just planning to first engage consultants for investigations or inventorization of the bridges. And the subsequent step would be, after the preparation of the inventory and based on initial inspections, the need for repair and rehabilitation will be assessed. Thereafter, we'll be engaging consultants for detailed investigations and repair and rehabilitation. It will take some time, but it will come and will continue to in the future. And most of the bridges which have been constructed in 90s, they require some sort of rehabilitation or repair, or at least continuous monitoring to enhance their life. It also need to be noted, it has to be, our endeavor that even if a bridge has been designed for a design life of 50 years, it doesn't, end its life at the 50 years. It has to be made perfectly, in service condition by regular maintenance, repair, and rehabilitations. We have many long span bridges overseas as well, which have been constructed 400 years back,
Yes.
and with 100 years of life, but they are still being maintained and in service. So we should also we are also planning in that way that all the bridges has to be kept in traffic worthy condition with proper maintenance, repair, and rehabilitation, so that they can continue to serve the nation. That is the idea. But this process certainly will, take some. This year I think this can be started. And the stretches, the bridges are the structures which are already identified for some repair and rehabilitation has already been included in the annual plan of this year. So this is a continuous process. There is no specific, we cannot give a figure, but as soon as this is, informed, this is taken into consideration, made in the plan, estimates are sanctioned, and the consultants and the contractors are engaged for repair and repair.
Thank you, sir, for coming with this response. Actually, strengthening of assets is one of the major things that government can think, because it can add value, it can add life to the existing assets and thereby delay new investment in new structure. I mean, this is one way we can manage the country's budget better. And that is something where structural consultants can really contribute effectively. And with today, better sensor arrangement, one can even detect when a structure is deteriorating and take early action so that they don't have a problem at a later stage. And one can take to strengthening it much faster. All these bridges which have been falling around in the country, that has alerted some of the governments to take this sort of a measure, and it is opening up new areas for engineering consultants to work on. The other aspect which has also made people very excited and questions have been raised is move to precasting. With the move to precast or prefabrication and changing the mode of construction from in situ construction to prefabricated construction, which will also save the, which will also ensure distancing of people at site, which will avoid congregation of people in the site. The aspect of environmental advantage, of precasting is an aspect which also we need to emphasize. By having this precasting, we can cut down on the environmental pollution, control it, and therefore add to environmental protection. Mr. Alok Bhomik, you had raised the issue. If you would like to have some observation on this, please welcome. Can't hear you. Unmute.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, this because of the lack of time at that time, I could not cover it in great detail. But I think, the climate change and sustainability, these are very important issues which, if you recall, there is a UN DP Sustainability Development Goals where India is committed, and there is a time frame of 2030 by which certain things were to be done. But due to this COVID scenario, I think all these plans have, gone for a toss, and there are several issues which newly has cropped up. For example, many of those sustainability development goals were pertaining to the marginalized society where there's disparity between the haves and have-nots, and that has to be brought closer. And instead, this COVID has proved that it has been even further widened. So the task of the government of the day is much more now to sort of get into this climate change and the sustainability issues. And as a civil engineer and as a structural engineer, if you see those 17 sustainability development goals, at least 5 or 6 of those has got a direct involvement of the structural engineers as to how, the building habitats we can do in such a way that we take into account the sustainability aspects. I mean, the reducing the carbon footprint, using material which are, doing precasting as a solution, and also using ultra high performance concrete to reduce the thicknesses. All these comes under the role of structural engineers. So we have a major role to play in the climate issue, in the sustainability development goals.
Well,
Can I add to that?
pardon? I have
engineer.
May I add to that, Mr. Ghoshal, with your permission?
Or not?
Hello.
Hello, yeah. Mr. Ghoshal,
Yes, please.
can I add to that a little bit?
If it is in 2 minutes, time has to be.
Am I audible?
We have already exceeded 20 minutes, so please make it quick.
Yeah, about precasting and all that, there is mentioning that the other systems like composite steel structures, steel buildings, which are also being done now. And the whole idea is that, the speed of constructions, and along with that comes social distancing also, lesser labor on site, more quality control in the at the factory level rather than on the site, with the lesser labor available. So all these, and that means different set of skills again than what we are currently used to. So that is a very important aspect of restructuring or reskilling ourselves, and also reskilling the industry. The same labor who was probably a site welder can be employed in the factory now as a welder after some due good training. So the skill levels go up overall in the society. Okay, and with composite construction is becoming a very popular thing, which is becoming more economical also, just like precast concrete.
For bringing up this. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes. Yes.
Thank you. And actually, the two takeaways from today's discussion have been one in the area of asset management and asset strengthening, Pandey has raised, and this new form of construction, the new normal in construction, where we shall have to fight for reduction in congregation at site. Now, we have already exceeded 25 minutes about. I would like to know from IAStructE how long we can continue. If we have another 4-5 minutes time, then I would suggest that as the president of IAStructE, Mr. Bhomik, you may assure the participants about what are the future program that organizations like IAStructE and CEI can take up for alerting people, making them aware of the new form of working, and also how we can contribute to the society at large by giving this service to our constituents.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, sir. I think the big takeaway after today's panel discussion is that we have a greater role to play now on both as a professional, as association, as well as structural engineers. I think between IAStructE and CEAI within our professional association, we have to do a lot of brainstorming to come out with a roadmap for training the structural engineers to develop new skills in them. Mr. Ghoshal talked about aging infrastructure, which requires repair rehabilitation. I think Mr. Pandey talked about asset management, and in buildings recently we have seen about the need for safety audit on earthquake. All these requires skill, which is a very high level skill. And I think as a structural engineers in India, we lack the skill in mass. We have very few people who can work on repair and rehabilitation. This is a skill which is much higher than the skill required for doing new design. So I think we need to recognize this, and as an association, we need to work to build the capacity in developing skills on repair, rehabilitation, forensic structural engineering. All these aspects are extremely important today, in today's scenario particularly. Not that I'm not saying that the new bridges or new structures will not come up. They are also equally important. But I think we, as I think Professor Tandon mentioned, that the structural engineers are becoming extinct. And I think it is time to recognize the fact that we need to develop more capacity. We have much more work than what we can even take. But the thing is that we should be capable of taking those, and we have to also talk to the organization, the government organizations, and convince them the need for safety auditing of bridges and building structures. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Bhomik, if since we have crossed half an hour, shall I close the proceedings, or it is your? It's
Yes,
the
sir. I think we have exceeded our
Fine.
stated stipulated 2 hours, and
Shall
in
I,
fact we can bring it to a close.
shall I request Mr. Bipul Ahuja, being the coordinator of this event, to kindly give the customer and by thanking the panelists and the participants, we have
Uh,
enjoyed all of
before that, may I request Professor Tandon to give a closing remark before Vipul, closes it?
Okay. That's what I was looking for. What is the last idea?
Tandon Saab, you have to unmute yourself first. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that we have covered more or less whatever we intended to cover. So I don't want to prolong it. But I do think that in the days to come and years to come, structural engineers should not become an endangered species. And to do that, it is the responsibility of people who are now structural engineers. They have to make sure that the youngsters find some future in this. Otherwise, why would they come into structural engineering? So what you mentioned, I think, Alok, that also has a lot of sense in that. And I think the big takeaway is what is the responsibility of the associations who are either civil engineers or structural engineers or consulting engineers, that we have a plan of action for young engineers, that firstly they should enter engineering, then they should get into civil engineering, and if possible they should get into structural engineering. I mean, it's a long route, but I think we have to plan as to how people get there. And thank you very much for inviting me, and it's been a pleasure to hear all the panelists and of course the moderator, who's done an excellent job. So thank you.
Well, before Bipul gives the customary vote of thanks,
May I add something?
Yes.
With the permission
Sure,
of the chair?
Sure, sir.
Sure. There are two more aspects which receiving attention of the client or the public. One of the is that aesthetics of the structures. I mean, when we are going for a long span bridges, the first thing which the minister or any public representative asks, how it will look like. So aesthetics has to be given proper thought of before actually going for a structural design. And second thing, as the matter has already been flagged in, the proper grooming and training of the younger professionals must be done. Because the last time when this bridge inventorization has failed, because the young engineers who have participated in that could not appreciate what they are collecting and how they are feeding in the formats. And that has given a wrong report, or sometimes not in a form which can be retrieved and which can be utilized for any purposeful action. So that has to be done properly. And here comes the responsibility of such associations to disseminate the knowledge and skill base to all our young professionals who will be really the torch bearers in the near future. Thank you.
thank you, sir. We on behalf of CEI and IAStructE, we assure you that we are aware of this task, and COVID has made us more aware, and it is our responsibility to serve our constituents. I must apologize to the questioners. There have been 24 questions and 26 chats. Now, the questioners, I have handled the crafts of the question, but whatever other questions are there, I think we shall arrange to respond to them in writing afterwards. Now, may I request people to please close the proceedings.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ghoshal. And, it is my humble duty that I must, if we had a regular seminar, we would be giving little mementos to every one of our participants. In this case, please accept our virtual mementos, which is my humble words only of thanks, which I can do for taking out your valuable time. To start with, I must only thank you, Mr. Ghoshal, for your sparing your valuable time and be doing such a wonderful job as a moderator and a panelist. And to Professor Tandon, as the chairing the session as well as being the panelist. And to Mr. Anil Kumar Sharma from Executability, thank you so much, for sparing your time. Mr. L.K. Pandey, we are deeply indebted, from your active work, you are taking out so much time. To Mr. Barara for shedding so much light for, and giving a direction to, structural engineers who are fumbling in the dark right now. To Professor Reshma Shah for, highlighting that how important it is to give direction to the very young engineers. And Mr. Anup Bhumik, thank you very much for going along and also giving me support and together thinking about ideas of how to help our fraternity in this hour of need to alleviate some of their anxiety at least, if not all of it. Well, I don't think all of it will ever happen, but at least a lot of it should be alleviated with this discussion. And I think anybody who is anxious needs to talk. And I think all participants, have been listening in on this discussion. I am sure would have had some good takeaways and will have a lot of food for thought. So I thank you all very much, and I thank the wonderful audience who I have not seen you, but I know from the questions that your mind has been very active in this direction. And thank you all once again.
Thank you, thank you, thank you all.
Thank you. Job well done.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So thank you, Alok.
Okay,
Thank
namaskar.
you, thank you, sir.
Wonderful job. And thank you, Vipul, for bringing this idea to fruition.
And big
Facing
thanks
it
to
till
Mr.
it-
Ghoshal.
Mr. Ghoshal, of course, as the moderator.
Yeah.
Wonderful job.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks to IAStructE as a whole for initiating this discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
जला दो, लाइट जला दो.
फोटो लग रहा है